Hey, broski, get the cat. Get the cat.
Get it.
Get the cat, broski.
I think you need to tighten that.
I
screw
did.
Right
I tightened that one already.
Okay.
It's okay.
It's this ring.
Oh,
So we're
learning how to use microphones today.
We're
on the
learning how
podcast.
to use microphone stands. And that's a great place to start because how many experienced people have you see go out on a stage or something and there's like a mic stand and they're wrenching on like the collar
Oh yeah.
when the problem is happening up at the neck.
Yep.
And so in this case, before we started, maybe we haven't started or maybe we have started, Melinda was wrenching down about what is called the collar when the problem is up at the neck at the top and the mic keeps
No, the whole
flopping
thing
over.
turned. I started with this dial and that didn't
The
do
collar.
it. When I did this one, it fixed it. This one was already tight. So and you notice I'm telling you which one is moved and now it's not moving anymore. You're not the boss of me.
It's
I
difficult.
don't think this one fixed it.
No, I agree. But this is what
Sorry.
this is what I mean.
Whatevs.
Smells like I'm out.
Meow, 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 meow. Insert the AI cat song. And before we get started, like 500 Cats is the podcast. Episode 17.
Is that just so we don't talk about skiing? I gotta remind people, hey, we're talking about cats
Different
today.
podcast.
We're not talking about skiing.
Yes, because we do have a co-sister podcast called How to Ski It. And more skiing is happening this time of year
Mm-hmm.
than events.
Yep.
We have tried to get into ski events, which probably will ruin both of them for us, is my guess.
Well, I mean, honestly, anytime someone new comes to work for us that tells us how that they've done triathlons, I always worry about them as an employee because it's watching your sausage be made that you love dearly. You when it's on the grill, you can't wait to eat it. But if you saw it being made, I don't know how much you want to be a part of it. And almost none of the people who were triathletes that came to work for us are still working for us.
Yeah, you see the flair of
Mm-hmm.
events, and then there's this night that you're eating pizza out of a trash can.
Yeah. And some people just can't hack that.
Some people can't hack that.
You know what I always worry about when we hire people who are triathletes is they're just going to watch the band.
As they're going to watch the band. We're having a dog fight in the studio. And as a professional production company, we keep our dogs in the sound studio.
Yeah, well, that's what you do.
They love the sound studio.
It's because it's weird. It's because it has room for them to spread out. So then they get rambunctious.
Yeah.
Where-
Yeah, because if they're in your office, they don't.
They sleep on their bed.
Yeah.
But when they come in the studio, there's furniture and all kinds of things.
It's like the
Yep.
gymnasium.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, they're also part of the team. They each have a duty at the office. One is security, one is the head greeter. And what I think is important is that they feel like they're part of the team. They had to get up early this morning also to do this recording.
The greeter and the head of security are fighting, though, and I feel like that's bad for business.
It's bad for business.
Don't worry, we're not open yet.
Well, welcome to 500 Cats. And as we derailed off any important subject, we were starting to talk about that it's the new year, and then we'll hit on that. And then we're going to hit on some AI stuff that even though we're an event company, and as AI describes us as a great event company, we do a lot of stuff with AI, and we've kind of put a little bit of effort into the fact that we think AI is going to play a big role in, well, everything, but events and production and helping us streamline things and stuff like that. And maybe we can talk a little bit about our own sports bot, which we have an app now, which is not public.
Yep.
It's internal, but it has access to all our documents.
Yeah.
And you can ask it questions about our documents, and it can read a manual back to you and things like that in the field. And we think that's going to be big stuff. But before we start on that, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And we'll start with Marcus. And do you have any resolution or anything like that?
You know, I've always hated the idea of resolutions. And as I've gotten older, I've been like, I'm not doing resolutions, but this year I'm gonna improve this and this in my life. So I do have some stuff, but I don't call them resolutions, even though that's what they are. I'm trying to read more. I got a Kindle, and so I'm trying to, because I love stories, but I hate reading because I'm very slow at it. So I'm gonna read more and try to save more money. So
Yeah, I think those are both good. Ryan, Kelly.
Yeah, similarly to Marcus, I think if you want to make a change in your life, you can do it whenever you want. Doesn't have to be January 1, although it's a good starting point, I guess. It's a fresh chapter, but I think financially I have goals that I want to hit and save a bunch of money, and I think that's the big one for me. Just be a little bit more strict with my budget.
Cheddar
Bob.
I saw Will Ferrell was like, I think obviously he was kidding, but one of his New Year's resolution was like, only refer to money as cheddar and cheese. So, Melinda Downey.
My New Year's resolution is very similar to Will Ferrell's. No, I'm just kidding. Cheddar. No, for me, it's working out. It's and I've been trying. I tried all of last year to get better, which I feel like I did. It's and then writing. I have started writing more, and my goal is to put at least a minimum of 15 minutes a day in, and just try to.
Are we gonna have a book?
Nice.
I have started, so we'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Nice.
maybe
That'd be
it's
cool.
possible.
Nice.
Oh, and then Marcus can read it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
It's gonna take me a while.
serendipity.
But I'll read it.
And I can sell it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, there you go. And then we all get cheddar.
Cheddar. David,
Dave.
and you.
To like, I'm gonna do the dry January thing for one, but that is part of the plan, which it might last longer than January, is just to lose some weight, get more fit, but just for skiing. And so then just let myself go again in May.
Yeah, right when events pick back up.
Yeah, and again, we have another podcast that we talk about skiing, but I'm a fairly accomplished skier. And now that I'm 55, I'm getting older, and there are some limits. I was made aware in the last few years there are limits to skiing and what the human body can do. But I think I can stretch it out longer if I can just lose a little bit of weight, get a little more fit and stuff. And then business-wise, just be more assertive. Like, I don't want to turn into the guy that always says no, but I don't want to be the yes man anymore. And I think I do a lot of just, it's easier to say yes and just do the job than it is to negotiate and stuff like that. So less yes,
Nice.
more let me check with my team.
I think our listeners are going to love that.
Well, and that's a stock statement we teach our guys and we teach and girls that, and especially when you're new, I think some of our event customers prey on the new person and they say, hey, any chance you could, and this is totally imaginary, hey, any chance you could get us some coffee? And they don't really know how to say no. And so, and again, they're new, and this is the person in charge of the event. This is the race director. So they go get him coffee. And then we're like,
why would you go get him coffee?
What is happening here?
Where's my coffee?
Is that in our scope of work?
So we have a stock statement, and I'll just let Ryan say it to show how stock it is. What do we say when we teach our team and ourselves, including myself, when somebody asks you something that you need to figure out if this should be done or not?
Dave, great question. Let me circle up with my team, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Yes, and we just gave our secret sauce away to our customers who listen to our podcast.
But no, it makes sense. It's like, hey, we can probably do this 9 times out of 10, but let me make sure everyone's on board. And then we'll get back to you, and let's make sure we have the ability to do it, because I don't want to say yes and then not be able to do it.
It's also feeding the bears. So, perfect example.
I don't know what that means.
So, so feeding the bears means it's something that's out of the scope of what, we're contracted to do, but they'd like us to do it. And then once you feed the bear continues, they recognize you as a food source, and they continue to come back to you to get whatever that thing of food is that they want.
And
when they could go get their own food.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing about feeding the bears. There are berries out there. There are fish in the river. they can go get their own food. But what's easier than catching a fish in the river is digging through a trash can.
Yeah, and ultimately they become reliant. And then when you take the trash can away, it attacks someone. And you got to put the bear down.
It kicks
and that's
in
not
the
what you
garage
want.
door and then attacks the family dog.
The
And
best example I was involved in, because I can defend myself, is I gave Mike Riley, a good friend of ours, the race announcer,
a light. Oh,
He's getting old in his old age, and he's losing his eyesight. And I was just trying to help the brother out, man. And
We don't say he's getting old. We say he is getting older.
he's maturing in his old age.
Maturing. No old age. Oh, no old. Old.
I gave him a light, and it wasn't more than 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from the race one night. Hey, where's Mike Riley's light? I'm not at the event. I don't know. I grabbed it off the trailer. What trailer? Oh, not this trailer. Oh, there's no light for Mike Riley. And he was sad.
he was sad.
He was
That's a
sad.
good example of feeding the
Oh, that's
bears
good.
because it was an unnecessary sadness
It was unnecessary
that
sadness
you created.
that I created. Yep. I wore the brown vest for a week, the metaphorical one.
Yeah, we do want
The
to
park
get
service vest.
we do
Yeah.
want to get vests that are like park service vests for the people on our team that feed the bears, so you'll know who fed the bears.
And it's an example of, just trying to help somebody out, not expecting anything of it. And then next thing you know,
Yeah, you had it available, so you were like, hey, I have this. Here you go.
yeah, it's in the back of the gator. Let's plug it in. It doesn't take any extra power. It's LED, and here you go, man. Thanks. You're welcome.
And here's the thing: Mike Riley has his own light.
Yes.
But it's easier for someone else to set it up.
Yes. Anyway, those are two minor examples. I usually look at feeding the bears as a little bigger. The light's a good one just because we had been through it before.
Yeah, but they were our examples were how when you feed the bears, they come back for seconds.
Yep.
And those were examples of how
Expect
they
seconds.
And in
Yeah.
my defense, that year there was a light freak out at dusk, and so there was lights everywhere.
And I don't know if you've heard this term, and it wasn't my term. It's Tom Cooney, if there was a legend in the event business, it's Tom Cooney.
Mhm.
And when I was brand new, so this is back in early 2000s, he came to me and he said, and he watched my back all through my career. And he came to me and said, because we were doing power, he said, "Are you ready for light freak out?" And I was like, well, I don't know, what is that? And he's like, well, when the sun goes down, people realize they need lights. And sure enough, that day we just start getting calls from all over the venue, like, hey, we either have a light and we need power, or we need a light and we need power. And now I think we're a better company, and we head that off by just figuring out where all that stuff needs to be, whether people ask or not. It's when they're, but sure enough, to this day, light freak out is a real thing. And it's just people will move an activation and do something and not think through that the sun's going to set and then we're going to need lights for this. So I would say more than probably 3/4 of all the events we do, when the sun sets, somewhere that we're not aware of needs lights.
Yep.
So,
agree
and that
with
came
that.
from Tom Cooney. It's called the light freak out.
It's a real
Freak
thing.
out.
It's a real thing. All right, let's move forward to what we were going to do the show about in the first place. Was we've been working with AI. The songs at the beginning of the show and the end of the show are all created by AI, and most of it's just store-bought apps. Nothing. There's really not a lot of rocket science into what we're doing. The creators of the AI, definitely rocket science, but what we're doing is just using this stuff until you get to what is called our sports bot, which people hate. It's so funny how much people hate the sports bot because it picks athletes that aren't racing, and we use it for gambling. I mean, guessing guessing like how the triathlon's going to end. But the most negative feedback, and it even showed up in like the Slow Twitch article, the most negative feedback came from New Zealand, where for the first time it got the podium right.
You got the podium right.
And people
the
were
start.
more upset about it getting it right than saying like Paula Newby Fraser was going to win New Zealand. Like they would have been able to stomach that. But the fact that it guessed the podium. So we've built this really cool app, and it's called the S-Bot, and it's the sports bot. And our original plan, I jokingly say, was for gambling, but it was for it to guess and make predictions for broadcasting. And then we just realized like that is way underusing it. Like that is just a waste of AI's time. And we started developing it to help us, like, just what are the days off next year for the calendar, on like holidays. And then our app can look at our manual, see which days we have as holidays, go reference that to a calendar and say, here they are. And it says it, and it takes from asking it to it spitting that back out to us is like 15 seconds. Yeah. So personally, I think that's quicker than I could open. We use Dropbox, open or Teams, and find that document and open it up and then go through and scroll all the way down and find. And then you'd have to go to the manual and see what days are holidays. We don't have, not every federal holiday do we use, just the big ones.
Yeah.
And then it looks at all kinds of documents, manuals, athlete guides, course maps, blah, 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 blah. And so it's been really helpful. And so we're developing an app. End of that story. We'll keep you in the loop on what happens with our SBOT app. But it is, I think this year it's actually going to be a team player and it's going to help us.
Yeah.
But one of the things we did is we had AI listen to our podcast, and then it did a podcast about our podcast. And when I heard that, I did not have the time in the day to listen to it because I was like, this is going to be so dumb.
Yeah.
And there was points listening to it, I was teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Because how it speaks about us, which is all BS. And then
No, it's not.
Well, we're going to let you listen to it.
Some of it is, but I think it captures our spirit.
We're going to let you listen to it. And the one thing I want to point out, it gets some things wrong. I'll be interested to hear what you guys notice that it gets wrong. But one thing I do want to point out that it gets wrong is that it refers to one of our guests as Bob Babbitt, who's a legend in triathlon on too many levels to discuss. And we should have him on the show.
Yeah.
But it's really talking about Bob Gitsum.
Who is also a legend.
Yes.
Legend. Yep.
And
Just
is a friend of
legend.
ours and races on our triathlon team. And he was a guest on episode 1, I think.
I think so.
And then I think in episode 1, we said, hey, look, there's Bob Babbitt. Because we did it outside on the pool deck in Kona. But anyway, here is 2 unnamed podcast hosts that are way better than us, except for notice their mannerisms.
That's when you can tell that it's AI. It goes, hey.
But check this out. I think it's really cool, and it's amazing what it gleaned from what I think is 16 episodes. Check this out.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Have you ever wondered what happens, like, behind the scenes of your favorite podcast? Well, today we're going to take a deep dive into the world of BCC Live and their podcast, 500 Cats.
Yeah, it's really a behind-the-scenes look at event production, specifically Ironman triathlons.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see what goes on behind the scenes in a world that most people never see.
Exactly, and we've been listening to hours and hours of 500 Cats, and it's amazing to see the passion, the challenges, the camaraderie that goes into producing these massive events.
Absolutely. So one of the things that really stood out to me was how much travel is involved.
It's a lot.
The team is constantly on the move, flying from one Ironman location to the next.
Yeah, they're
like even shared
warriors.
A story about a flight back from Panama City.
Oh, yeah.
No air conditioning. And a passenger the size of Shaq.
Oh, that's brutal.
I can't even imagine.
Especially with no air conditioning.
Oh my gosh, that sounds miserable.
Yeah.
That story just highlights how important it is to set expectations and be prepared for anything.
Right.
The 500 Cats team talks about it constantly. Plan for delays, pack. Your patients always have a backup plan.
Yeah, it seems like that's a philosophy that extends beyond travel, too.
Right.
Like their entire approach to event production.
Absolutely. Because when you're dealing with so many moving parts, anything can happen.
Right.
So speaking of, these long flights and chaotic airports, I'm curious, what have they learned about staying sane on the road?
Well, it sounds like they've picked up some pretty great travel tips along the way.
Oh, yeah.
TSA pre-check AirTags for their luggage.
Smart.
Even recommendations for decent airport food.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's key.
They've turned surviving travel into an art form.
I love it that you talk about places like Elway's in Denver and Umakes in Kona.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're these hidden gems.
I know, right?
I'm like, wait a minute, I've been there.
Exactly.
Those are great spots. So I'm curious, do you think focusing on good food helps them cope with those crazy travel schedules?
I think it plays a big part, yeah. It's a way to find those little moments of normalcy and enjoyment amidst the chaos.
Yeah.
Plus, it's a chance to connect with each other and build camaraderie outside of work.
Yeah, and that team spirit really comes through in the podcast.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it's clear they're not just colleagues. They're genuine friends who support each other through thick and thin.
Absolutely.
And speaking of support, one thing that struck me was how much emphasis they place on clear communication.
Yeah.
They even share some pretty funny stories about coaching people on proper mic technique.
Oh, yeah.
Like speaking directly into the microphone.
Right.
Instead of yelling, "Can you hear me now?" from across the room.
Exactly.
It's so classic.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing good audio is super crucial
Oh, yeah.
in their line of work.
It's essential.
So what happens when things go wrong?
Well, it can have a huge impact on the quality of the event.
Oh, really?
Like they had one incident in Kona where someone used the wrong headset.
Oh, no.
And there was some accidental swearing.
Oh, gosh.
During a live recording.
I can only imagine.
So it just goes to show that even small audio glitches can be super distracting.
Yeah.
And take away from the overall experience.
Wow. So they're dealing with the travel, the importance of good audio. And then on top of all that, the unpredictability of live events.
Right.
What are some of the challenges they faced in that regard?
Well, one that really stands out is the catchbox incident.
The catchbox?
Yeah, they had this microphone encased in a phone box that was supposed to be tossed around for audience participation.
Interesting in theory.
Right.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Well, yeah, it didn't quite work as planned. And there were a lot of awkward microphone fumbles.
Oh, my gosh.
They described it as kids' soccer. Everybody just wants to see their own kid, not necessarily the well-orchestrated chaos of a professional event.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You got to admire their willingness to experiment, though.
Oh, yeah.
But what about when things go wrong on a more technical level?
Oh, yeah.
Did they share any stories about those moments?
Oh, absolutely. They had one about accidentally fading to black during a live stream of a major conference.
What exactly does fading to black mean?
Essentially, the video feed cut out completely, leaving viewers with a blank screen.
Oh, my gosh.
Thankfully, they had backup systems in place and were able to edit it out in post-production.
Okay.
But it was a stark reminder of how quickly things can go wrong, even with meticulous planning.
Yeah, you really have to think on your feet and be ready for anything.
Exactly.
It's amazing how they handle those high-pressure situations with a mix of professionalism and humor.
For sure.
And, you know, speaking of heartwarming moments, the 500 Cats team encounters some pretty incredible people through their work.
Oh, yeah.
And one story that really resonated with me was about Bob Babbitt.
Oh, Bob Babbitt. He's a legend in the Iron Man world.
I know.
He's known for his incredible perseverance and positive attitude. But what's interesting is the team doesn't just talk about his athletic achievements.
Right.
They really capture his spirit, his ability to inspire everyone around him.
Yeah, and I think that's what really makes him such a legend. You know, it's not just about crossing the finish line.
Exactly.
It's about how you do it and the impact you have on others.
Yeah. Did they share any specific examples of how he inspired them?
Yeah, they talked about meeting him on the course. You know how he always had a smile on his face?
Oh, yeah.
Even when things got tough?
Right.
And it's that unwavering optimism that seems to resonate with the team so much.
Yeah. They see it not only in Bob, but in so many of the athletes they encounter.
And it's a good reminder that sometimes the most inspiring stories aren't about winning.
Exactly.
But about the grit and determination it takes to keep going when faced with setbacks.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And speaking of inspiring stories, they also share the journey of Tim and Chloe at Ironman Arizona.
Oh, yeah. Tim and Chloe. That's a powerful story.
I know.
So Tim had been battling stage 4 cancer. And completing the Ironman was a huge personal goal for him.
Right.
And his daughter, Chloe, she had never done a full Ironman before. But she was determined to support her dad every step of the way.
Yeah, it's amazing how they both just sort of embrace that challenge,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and really
together. Yeah.
And what struck me about their story is that it's not just about athletic achievement.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the power of family,
right?
Love and support.
Yeah.
They helped each other through an incredibly challenging time.
Absolutely.
And their dedication clearly touched the 500 Cats team deeply.
Yeah, and it's fascinating how this theme of support extends beyond individual stories. Like it's woven into the fabric of BCC Live's company culture.
Right.
Like a powerful example of this is their Kona for Ethan campaign.
Yeah, the Kona for Ethan campaign.
Right.
This was all about honoring Ethan Schuster,
Mm-hmm.
the son of their friend and colleague, J.J. Schuster,
Right.
who tragically passed away.
Yeah.
And the team, they just rallied around JJ, raising money for the Kona for Ethan Foundation.
Which supports families who have experienced the loss of a child.
Right, and it's just incredible how they channeled their grief into something so positive.
It's really inspiring, and I think what's so compelling about this story is that it reveals a depth of compassion and commitment that goes far beyond the typical workplace.
Right.
They're not just coworkers, they're a true community that supports each other through life's toughest moments.
Absolutely, and that sense of community extends to the events themselves.
Oh, for sure.
You know, they often talk about the energy of the crowds, the excitement of the races, the feeling of everyone coming together to celebrate this incredible feat of human endurance.
It's like a shared experience, a sense of belonging. And that seems to be what drives their passion for event production.
And they're not just putting on a show.
Right.
They're creating a space where people can connect, challenge themselves, and achieve something extraordinary.
Exactly. It makes you think about the power of events to bring people together, to create lasting memories, and to inspire us to push beyond our limits. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're absolutely right. There's something really primal about gathering together, to witness a spectacle, to cheer on those who dare to push the boundaries of human potential.
Yeah.
And what the 500 Cats podcast really reveals is that there's a whole team of dedicated individuals working tirelessly behind the scenes.
To make those moments possible.
To make it all happen. And they do it with a sense of humor and camaraderie that's truly infectious.
Oh, for sure.
But let's talk about that dedication for a moment. What have we learned about the hard work?
Yeah.
And the long hours that go into event production?
Well, they've shared some pretty amusing anecdotes about those long nights and unexpected challenges.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
For example, they had a story about accidentally ordering way too much food for one event.
Oh, no.
But instead of letting it go to waste, they found a creative solution.
Okay.
They donated it all to a local food bank.
Well, that's great.
It's a small detail, but it speaks volumes about their resourcefulness and their commitment to giving back to the community.
Yeah, they seem to be really in tune with that, you know, giving back and being a part of the community.
Absolutely.
So I imagine those long hours can take a toll. How do they manage to stay energized and maintain that positive attitude?
They seem to have a knack for finding humor, even in the most stressful situations. Like they even joked about creating a power credit card.
Whoa.
So people could swipe and pay for the extra amps they were using.
I love that. That's so funny.
It is.
It sounds like they've learned to embrace the chaos and find joy in the unexpected.
Right.
And that reminds me of another challenge they mentioned. Setting up the internet for the Ironman World Championship in Kona.
Oh, yeah, Kona. That's a whole other beast.
I know, right?
They talked about having to create this massive network with multiple fiber connections, cable modems, Wi-Fi access points, all to ensure seamless connectivity for the entire event.
I can't even imagine the logistics of that.
It's mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
And what's striking is that even when discussing these highly technical aspects, they managed to keep it lighthearted and relatable.
Right.
It's clear they're passionate about the technology, but they never lose sight of the human element, the purpose behind all those wires and servers.
Absolutely. And it's that balance of technical expertise and human connection that makes the 500 Cats podcast so compelling.
Yeah. And speaking of human connection, let's circle back to the team itself.
Okay.
What have we learned about the dynamics within BCC Live and what makes them such a cohesive unit?
Well, one thing that stands out is their emphasis on clear communication. They shared an anecdote about someone using the wrong microphone during a live broadcast.
Oh, yeah.
Which caused a bit of a chaotic moment.
I can only imagine.
Right. It's just a reminder that even seemingly small details can have a big impact.
Yeah.
And that clear communication is essential for ensuring everything runs smoothly.
Absolutely.
It makes you realize how much coordination and teamwork goes into these events. And it's not just about avoiding mistakes.
Right.
It's about creating an environment where everyone feels supported and empowered to do their best work.
Absolutely. And they talk about having a clear chain of command.
Right.
And designated roles so everyone knows who's responsible for what.
Makes sense.
But beyond that structure, there's a genuine sense of camaraderie and mutual respect that really shines through.
They seem to genuinely enjoy working together.
Yeah.
Even when things get stressful.
Right.
And that shared sense of purpose seems to fuel their passion for what they do.
It's that passion, that dedication to creating unforgettable experiences that ultimately makes the 500 Cats podcast so inspiring.
Absolutely.
They remind us that hard work can be fun, that challenges can be overcome, and that the power of human connection can make all the difference.
Well said.
It's been quite a journey exploring the world of BCC Live and the 500 Cats podcast.
It has.
We've gained a whole new appreciation for what goes on behind the scenes of these incredible events.
We've seen the logistical challenges, the technical wizardry, the heartwarming stories, the sheer passion that fuels this industry.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, we've covered so much ground already, from travel tips and technical hiccups to inspiring athletes and heartwarming moments of teamwork.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the 500 Cats team blends professionalism with a genuine sense of fun.
Absolutely. And one story that really encapsulates that spirit is Jim Ristow's journey.
Oh, yeah.
To complete Ironman Florida.
Jim Ristow.
They even nicknamed him the Cat Sheriff.
Oh, yes, Jim Ristow. He's become like a recurring character
Yeah.
in their narrative. It seems like he's faced quite a few setbacks on his Ironman journey.
Right.
So what makes his story so compelling?
Well, is his unwavering determination. He's had multiple attempts at completing Ironman races.
Okay.
Each time encountering new obstacles. But what's inspiring is that he never gives up.
Right.
He learns from each experience.
Okay.
Adapts his approach and keeps pushing forward.
So he embodies that famous Ironman motto, anything is possible.
Absolutely.
And the 500 Cats team has been right there with him, offering support and encouragement every step of the way.
Yeah, they've even helped him train.
Oh, really?
Sharing tips on everything from nutrition to pacing.
Wow, that's going above and beyond.
It's a great example of how the team isn't just observing.
Right.
They're actively involved in helping others achieve their goals.
Yeah.
And it speaks volumes about their character and their commitment to the Ironman community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's that sense of community that really shines through in this podcast.
For sure.
It's not just about individual achievement.
Right.
It's about coming together to support each other, to celebrate successes, and to learn from setbacks.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message for anyone, whether you're an athlete, an event producer, or just someone navigating the ups and downs of life.
Yeah.
Having a supportive community can make all the difference.
It really can. Well, it's been fascinating to take this deep dive into the world of 500 Cats in DCC Live.
It really has.
Yeah. We've gained a whole new appreciation for what goes on behind the scenes of these incredible events.
We've seen the logistical challenges,
right,
the technical wizardry, the heartwarming stories, and the sheer passion that fuels this industry.
What stands out to you as the most valuable takeaway from this exploration?
For me, it's the reminder that even in a fast-paced, demanding field like event production, there's still room for genuine human connection,
right,
camaraderie, and a sense of purpose.
I completely agree. The 500 Cats team shows us that hard work can be fun, that challenges can be opportunities for growth,
for sure,
and that the most rewarding experiences often come from working together towards a common goal.
Absolutely.
So as you go about your day, dear listener, we encourage you to think about the communities you're a part of and the people who inspire you.
Right.
What can you learn from the 500 Cats team's approach to teamwork, resilience, and finding joy in the journey?
Great question.
Maybe you'll even be inspired to check out the 500 Cats podcast yourself.
Yeah.
And discover even more behind-the-scenes stories from this fascinating world.
That's a great idea.
Well, until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Okay, like what all? Like first of all, I'm musty again.
Musty?
Musty-eyed.
Misty?
Misty.
It's more musty.
It's because it's a combination of dust and mist.
Misty seems like Twinkle Bell tears. These are more like swamp tears. Anyway, at the very end, it did call us DCC.
DCC Live.
And then to me, by far the funniest thing that it got wrong, but it got wrong in such a beautiful way, is it said, we ordered too much food and we gave it to the homeless. And you know what? When I was like, it sounded plausible because we do try to do as much give back. We spend way more time doing give back stuff than I feel like we should. But that's not the story. The story was about us eating pizza out of the trash can.
The trash can.
Which is called medical pizza.
We were the ones starving.
Yeah.
And at events, and if you do events, you're not shaking your head. And if you don't do events, you're like, I'll never hire these guys.
Yeah.
But if you do events, you've done it. And a lot of the events we do end at 4 a.m., end at 2 a.m. and stuff like that. And there are these huge events. So there's lots of food and drinks and stuff like that. And there's always some left over. So sometimes there'll be, and this is sad to say, but it's true, dozens of pizza boxes dumped into the dumpster, but they're unopened and some of them are still piping
Okay,
warm.
not the dumpster. We are not dumpster diving.
Circle
They're
trash
usually
cans
sitting
in the trash.
next to or on the top of a
Well,
trash
we were
can.
talking about Arizona where they were sitting in the trash.
Yes.
So, and it said that so anyway, but anything else that you guys noticed from that story?
It repeated one story twice. But it was weird because it had like a different takeaway both times.
Does it make you feel like our podcast sucks, that their podcast is better than our podcast?
No, it made me feel like our podcast is awesome because look how good these people are and they're talking about us.
Should I start leaning in a little bit and going, yes, yes, oh yes, I agree, yes.
Right.
Well, we're going to have it also review how to ski it, and then we would be remiss if we didn't turn it loose on the Iron Man Insider.
Yeah, we would.
It never ceases to amaze me of the potential of AI. And when I was listening to this, the time it would take to listen to this did this in minutes.
Yeah.
Like it was not real time. Like it did this in
Did
minutes.
we feed it a transcript or did we feed it the audio files?
We pointed it in the direction of the podcast, so that's something I'm assuming it went through the transcripts. And
I feel like it'd be faster to read a transcript and listen to the podcast because I don't know how the back end works. We probably should ask Tom.
Yeah, and so here we are talking about something that Tom on our team did.
Yeah.
Tom
may or may not be a real person.
Tom
he might be AI.
He might be AI.
He did the one thing. If Tom didn't used to live here in Colorado and work out of the studio, I'll be honest, I would.
He would be like, I don't know if he's
I don't
real.
know what's going on.
Well, we've had a few customers of ours be like, why do you keep like this Tom person doesn't exist? Because he now that he lives in Poland, he doesn't come to events, but we talk about him because he's so powerful and he's so smart and he does so many cool things. And we're like, Tom this, Tom that. And they're like, stop it with the Tom stuff because Tom's not real. We're like, no, he's a real person. And then finally, so like Izzy was one of those people.
Really?
She got to meet him in Nice. And was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're real.
Yeah, he did go to Nice.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And it looks like we'll be doing, for better or worse, additional events in Europe. And obviously he's our only person in Europe at this point, so he'll be going to those events.
The BCC Poland office.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anybody else have any comments about our AI overlords who we appreciate?
It's crazy.
You know, I actually do have one other thing to say because I had an interaction with AI yesterday. And I think that our approach to AI is not to have it replace people, but to help people. And I feel like most interactions with AI now, usually Zoom has great support. I had to go through their AI bot to even talk to a person. And I finally was just like, I want to talk to a person. And it was like, great, it sounds like you might want to contact support. And you have to click the button that says contact support. And it's like, why don't I ask you a few more questions before that happens? And it took me like 10 minutes. And then it put me in the line. And then I stepped away to microwave something. And when I came back, I had been disconnected because I hadn't talked fast enough. And so I had to start the whole process over again.
Did you learn to just lean into live agent? Every time it asks a question, you just answer live agent?
On the chat box?
Says Karen.
Says our live agent.
So, hey, I just want to say for the record, I have called tech support more than probably
Anybody
the
in the
number of
corporation.
hours you've been alive. And so I am really good at
Getting a live agent.
getting a live agent. Manager.
So I'm really excited about our AI because I feel like we're using it to do creative things and help amplify things that people do, like to help our people do their job more efficiently and better. And even help, there are ways to use AI to help people, like you mentioned, scanning an athlete guide. Having something that can answer a question directly from the athlete guide would be huge, and you wouldn't have to wait in a line. So I'm excited about what we're doing with our AI.
And as opposed to Zoom, the way they're using it is to inconvenience you to the point that you give up.
Yeah.
But still pay your bill.
Exactly.
And I think you bring up the Zoom thing, and not to go off on a tangent, but it's interesting to me when I go through somebody else's process, and it sounds like Zoom is a good example of that. And you can tell they didn't go through it from an untrained perspective.
Yep.
Like if I design the maze, I can run through the maze.
Yeah.
And 6 seconds, let's see you guys beat that. And everyone else has to figure out every turn. And then I'm just like, it takes 6 seconds.
Yes.
And it's kind of like Microsoft and Windows. Like humans stopped testing Windows forever ago because it's so insane.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, did a human go through this? And the answer is obviously yes, a human went through it that helped design it and tested it. And I wish companies more just like grabbed an average person off the street or their average customer and said, try out our support. And you're like, I couldn't get a hold of anybody and I got disconnected.
Yeah.
And it took a day to solve a simple issue. One day.
Yeah.
That's a little much for, I need to change my plan.
Yeah.
And they're losing money on that. And so I don't think they want that. But they also haven't put a regular human being in the test corridor to see how it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully we don't do that with our products.
Yeah, but you got a cool thing coming up with that you're going to be using Zoom for.
Yeah, that's why I had to Zoom chat.
Let's talk about yoga.
Yeah, we've got a yoga event coming up. We've done this for, I think this is the 4th year.
Yeah.
Their instructor is actually based out of Brazil. And instead of coming to Boulder to do the event, he actually Zooms in, and we utilize Zoom Rooms to give him, in Brazil, remote control of a PTZ camera so he can zoom in on people as they're doing it and give instructions. He has people in the room, of course, that are kind of helping facilitate some of his instructors, but he's still the primary doing this practice intensive. And then, so we have 3 cameras connected through Zoom Rooms, one of them being that PTZ, and then 2 being wide angle. And then they also set up iPads all around the room with even more views, so he can see every angle of the room, and then he can zoom in on specific people if he needs to with that PTZ. And it's one of the most unique setups I think I've ever done for an event, where it's like, the primary person is remote and you have to provide him a way to directly in real time interact with the audience in the room.
And they can see him on a big screen at the front of the room.
Yes.
So you're bringing him in and then sending them back to him.
Yeah.
So it's a true like classroom style, and it's
is.
over 100 people.
Correct. Yeah. And all doing yoga. So it's a practice intensive. And what that means more or less is they do yoga together, but a lot of these people are also learning to be instructors or are instructors. And so they will then circle up and have like Q&A with him. Okay, why did we do it this way? What are modifications we can do? And so it's really cool because you get to kind of see their style of yoga, but also get to hear the why behind a lot of what they do.
That job, and we talked about this yesterday, makes me feel dumb.
Yeah.
Because it sounds so simple.
Right.
When you just described it, it's like, oh, you do a Zoom call. But with the multiple cameras, him having the ability to control the multiple cameras, and then we have people in the crowd with microphones so they can ask questions back to Zoom via the microphone, and the people in the room can hear it. And it's every year we're like, this should be easier.
Yeah.
And it's not. And one of the easiest ways to do it would just to be spread laptops all around the room, short of the audio integration.
Right.
But that's really clunky, and we do a little bit of that, and there's some iPads around the room, but it's one of the more complex jobs that I don't think we definitely are doing it with less equipment, but a lot of that has to do with the facility that it's at.
True.
Which is the Jewish Community Center here in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
Which is an awesome place, well run, very awesome people. Like, you go into facilities, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And they are like, that's a
They're
professionally
top-notch,
run facility. But every year, we think there's got to be a silver bullet to do this job, and there isn't.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that every single year, we have the same discussion of, why can't Zoom rooms do multiple NDI inputs? And every year it's like, nah, it's got to be updated now. And we've talked to them about it multiple years, being like, hey, we must be missing something. But it's like, you can't bring in all three cameras in the same way. So a webcam comes over what's called UVC, which is just a universal video control.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's how we have to bring in the PTZ camera.
The ball is missing again. It's down here.
That's how we have to bring in the PTZ camera for him to control it remotely. But you can't bring a second or third camera in over UVC. They have to come in a different way. So you can bring another one in over NDI. Great. You can't bring in the third one over NDI because you already got an NDI one. So then you have to find another way to bring one in, which has historically been GoPro's webcam software, because all of these show up in Zoom as separate inputs, whereas NDI video comes in as one input.
Right. And then GoPros overheat.
GoPros overheat.
We've learned, and they do have, maybe for another episode, an app or a hack you can install from GoPro called GoPro Labs, and you can turn that feature off. But there's a reason that feature's in there, to keep your camera from burning up or ruining
melting.
it. Yeah, not going to catch fire or anything, but ruining it. And so you can turn that feature off, but then are you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
So Coyote Yoga, they're a good customer.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I've been to the setup at that event before, and they're just nice people. And the one thing I think we've talked about on almost every episode is, you can't teach care.
Yeah.
They care.
Yeah, they do.
They care about their production. They care about the details. And then it's so much easier when a customer cares for you to care.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if they care, then you're going to pick up zip ties on the ground. But if they don't care, you just pack up and get out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of them. I like
Me
them.
too.
And then 4 years, and they found us like on Google, which we don't do web marketing very well. And so we don't, most of our growth is word of mouth.
Yeah.
And so, they're a success story.
Definitely. Yeah, and the fact, when the first year we did 2 that first year, and then they decided to scale it back for themselves, and now they do 1 a year, and they keep coming back every year for us, which is awesome, because it's kind of perfect time of year for us.
Yeah,
and it's a really great job.
We don't have too much going on, so it is a perfect time of year. And another thing they do, which means a lot to me, is we typically get a verbal on the next year that, before the end of the show.
Yes, absolutely.
And we have a few customers, and not to all our customers. Sometimes it's just implied.
Right.
So we don't really need to have that conversation on an event we've done 20 years. But in this case, they always say, put us down for next year. Chattanooga Marathon, put us down for next year.
Dawson graduation, put us
down for next year.
Yeah.
And so, that, I mean, we talked about this. AI talked about this. We build relationships.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's our new thing, apparently,
our new thing.
according to the AI overlords.
Hey, can I talk about one more thing where you were talking about Zoom and how Zoom, you expect these features to work? I have a big complaint that we do Teams for a low latency return during a lot of our broadcasts. And in Windows, you can do NDI cameras, but they took it away in Mac, and most of our computers are Macs. And now you can only do a camera that is physically plugged into the computer or the web, the camera that's built into the computer, but you can't do NDI anymore. And I feel like we are not the only production company that uses Macs in this way. And so it seems weird to me that Microsoft removed that feature and hasn't added it back in over a year.
You're talking about Teams?
Teams, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a product that's half done.
Yeah.
Like they're half done finishing it.
Oh.
I mean, you
would
used
agree
it.
with
Yeah,
that.
but they used it, but it used to work. That's
I
my
know.
complaint. They took it away.
They took it away.
It's, I mean, of all the products that we use,
It's,
Teams probably has more potential to just be the one app that you use for email and everything. And then I think this goes back to where I was digging on Microsoft about the Windows 11,000.
Yeah.
Is that there's no way a human tested Teams where when you click on the calendar, it's like, sorry, got to reopen and open up another app here.
Well, and like the integration with OneNote should be seamless.
Should be the same
but
app.
It's terrible. Yeah, exactly. Why is it a different app? And even if you had a separate, the
That's how
integration is
they
terrible.
have to have 14
tiers.
apps that do the same thing. And then you have to pay for the 365 service on the back end. Anyway, we won't go to, we used to be an IT company.
So, but for me, it really frustrated me that they took it away. We spent hours trying to troubleshoot. How could we? And then in the end, I had to pull a laptop out of a drawer that is one that we don't use for something that is we need to be
It's
reliable.
simple. Yeah, don't get me started on Teams. I like, and you've heard me preach it in the office, not on the air, but I like Google Meets. And it's just that simple feature that you can use your space bar as a push to talk button.
That's so nice.
Do you know how often like the wrong message goes out over your microphone when you do it that way? Never.
Yeah. Yeah, because you
Never.
have to hit the button to
You have
talk.
to hold it down.
Yeah.
And you hold the space bar down and talk. And so it's like a walkie-talkie. That's my and then when you anyway, let's move on.
I'm sorry I digressed into that, but when you were talking about Zoom, it immediately made me think about features that you expect, but
And
are
Zoom
not
is
there.
cool. We've
Yeah,
done
it's good.
full-blown 500,000 some person conferences we used to do about birding
Yep.
in Latin America, which is crazy to think we used to put on Latin American birding conferences on Zoom, but those were wild.
They were
cool.
wild.
They were wild.
I got
though.
their Christmas card. I love them.
Yeah.
They were awesome.
Susan and the team's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. And then one more event coming up maybe before we do our next episode is Rock and Roll Arizona.
Yep.
And I know Ryan's going and the other Ryan's going and Johnny Mitchell, I think, is going with you guys and Julian.
That's right.
And that's a great event. Like of all the rock and roll events, that's one of my favorites.
And they've made it so much better. Like,
Yeah.
Remember you used to start down in the campus under the bridge. Now you start at 3rd and Mill. And the finish line's right there on Rio Salado. They're within like 2 blocks of each other instead of a mile. And Tempe Beach Park. And Arizona's just one of our favorite venues. Tempe's just a great town.
Tempe and
events on.
Phoenix is one of our favorite. We have a lot of success there. And according to, that was the new AI recording talked about growth in Tempe because the AI recording we played for you, we did a second one to see if it could get more right, and it got way more wrong.
Way more
We'll
wrong.
maybe get some highlights from that because it says we started on the shores of Oahu in 1978, which might be true in a way. So Rock and Roll Arizona, and you're saying the event has been made better, but I miss the marathon downtown Phoenix start line was one of my favorite memories of all events, because we weren't always a big enough team. Like, you don't send a crew to do the start. You send a person who's then responsible. And we're just talking about audio. There's dozens of people, of course, marshals, but I feel like it was just me and Dave Kappas once. And
Dave Kappas is the announcer.
Yes, and one of my favorite memories, and I'm sure he remembers, of just, this is how this race is going to go down, and it was a tight to get everything set up and then struck and get off the roads and get back to the finish line. But I do miss the downtown marathon start in Phoenix.
I must have changed it, but I used to have an alarm that said like Dave to Van Buren Street.
Yes.
And it was like a 7 a.m. alarm, because we had to you would be at the half marathon start, but you'd have to leave, take the train, catch a ride, whatever it was. And every time I'd set that alarm, I'd laugh, because it was from that event, because you were going down there by yourself, and it was like a reminder for the team, hey, make sure Dave's out of here by this alarm. But yeah, I don't see it anymore.
And you have to have every piece, part, widget, everything you need, because if you forget anything or something breaks or something doesn't go the way you want, you've ruined it. You've ruined the event, because there's not, it's 30 minutes away. There's not enough time to go back and forth. So, and we've done this many a times where you triple check, quadruple check, take extra parts. What happens if this fails? And have all these A, B, C, D, E, F plan.
Backup for your backup.
Backups for your backups. But yeah, and we probably should have Dave Kappas on sometime. I love working with Dave Kappas. Like, he's just a good dude.
I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah,
he hasn't been around.
I'm friends with him on Facebook, so every weekend he's at some 5K in Chicago or something.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the voice of Chicago.
He is the voice of Chicago.
He does everything in Chicago.
Yeah, and I learned a lot from him in announcing in Benton Harbor, Michigan at Steelhead Triathlon, that he taught me how to say Illinois.
Which Dave said over the microphone live to the crowd, and they booed him.
I did get booed once, and it just slips out sometimes. I know to say Illinois.
Okay.
But I said
Illinois. You say Illinois. Got it.
And I did get booed collectively by 1,000 people.
Yeah, it was the finish line crowd at Steelhead, and it was funny.
And then right as it happened, Dave pats me on the back and he goes, "I'll take over from here."
I think once you're booed, like, it's kind of like the hook,
shepherd's
hook pulls you off stage.
You got to go in timeout.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Daves in announcing.
Oh man, that's true.
Dave Kappas was in a Coors Light commercial.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It
And we saw it.
It wasn't the one. They used to have that series of commercials of coaches talking to the press. And if you remember the one, and I think it was Jim Mora, where he's like, "Playoffs? We can't be talking about playoffs."
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
What? Okay, we're gonna have to watch that after.
It's not that one.
Yeah.
But it's one of those along that series where they go to the audience, and we're watching TV one afternoon. It's a Coors Light commercial. It's national commercial. Mm-hmm. And they go to one of the reporters in the room, and it's Dave Kappas.
It was awesome.
That's amazing.
So, that's a good one. So 500 Cats. Oh, we probably need to do an AI song to close it out.
Yeah.
Look, can we do something maybe Happy New Year themed
How about AI Overlords?
for the new year?
Heavy
There we
metal
go. That
for the new year.
Heavy metal.
Check it out.
Shadows and light, satanic